My name is John Wolford, for Who's Telling the Truth. I'm here with Patricia Bowen. We're standing at the Peace Vigil on the corner of South and Main Street. It's every Saturday from 10:30 a.m. till noon. And I just wanted to ask Patricia a couple questions because she's been coming here since before I've started coming.
At least 7 years.
At least 7 years. I was just wondering, you've lived in Danbury a long time.
Yes, I'm not originally from Danbury, but I was young. I was in college when I came to Danbury State Teachers.
Has there ever been a vigil that is like this Peace Vigil in Danbury, or is this something that's kind of a new addition to the town and the culture?
Well, do you mean the length of it or the issue?
I would say the length of it, and I think there was something about the issue before before they started here at the War Memorial. But
well, I think I spoke to that a little bit about Walter Horensik.
Yeah.
And I would suspect that he probably was on there. Would it maybe be after Vietnam?
Uh-huh.
So that would have been maybe in the 80s, 90s. So he was all by himself.
Okay.
All right. So, so I would say that he came pretty much all the time. And I actually came to a few of his all by himself. I remember, but it was after the fact. There didn't seem to be a war per se, but he probably understood.
It was peacetime, but he knew
Yes, right, okay. So he wanted to make people aware, because perhaps he became disenchanted with Vietnam. He was a veteran.
The draft.
As some of the men are here who were veterans of Vietnam and that come here. And of course, that's a very strong movement around our country, probably more visible in other areas than it was here. But he was the visible person. And he was kind of made fun of. People kind of laughed about him and blah, blah, blah. He wasn't from Danbury, he was from Ridgefield. But this was the largest area he could make his point. But I would say as a continual, like every day, through snow and sleet and rain and sun and the heat of the summer, this is the most continuous in terms of the issue of peace. I've been to other rallies throughout in this community. The most recent was the issue of the newer people in our country that are here without documents. That was a very big issue for Danbury.
May Day was just a few days ago. Yeah, it was big.
Right. Well, this is like the Dreamers and stuff like that, right? On May Day.
I didn't know that Obama actually, him and his cabinet, they're responsible for deporting over 2 million people in the country, more than Bush. Which is
because I think they kind of gave Bush a pass because he was a Republican in the Republican Congress, because actually President Bush was in favor of a comprehensive reform of immigration. He was not anti-immigration. Well, he lived in Texas. He knew about how critical it was, really, yes. As also is his brother, who is a possible contender for the presidential candidacy in 2016. But I think President Obama had the onus on him because of the nature of the House of Representatives after 2010 with the Republican assault on him, that he was too wishy-washy, he was liberal and everything. So I believe that he implemented what was already existing laws about deportation. However, it got out of hand because it was supposed to be criminal. And being here without papers is not criminal. It's civil. And once you can just, go. Again, nothing in life is simple. That's one of the things we learn. When we're a child, we think like a child and everything is black and white. As you get older, you recognize it's all gray. What is black and white? But I kind of lost my thought. Oh, with the deportations, he wanted just criminal. But then again, there was the prison privatization of prisoners, and companies knew that would give them money from the government, and they created these facilities that weren't used, and so there were roundups and put them in, and people were making lots of money off that whole issue. So the privatizing of it, I think, is what switched it from just criminals to everybody, because people were making a lot of money out of it. I do not believe that was his intention. You know, I think he is a man of good intentions and good principles, and then he gets waylaid by so many of the private interests and the Republican interests. So I think he had to prove himself to a vast base out there that he was tough and stuff like that, but he never intended, I believe, for it to happen like that. He's lightened it up now, and what is so unbelievable, I was just reading that as a result of those deportations, there are now 5,000 children, approximately 5,000 children that they know that were born in this United States to these parents who were deported that are now in foster care in our country.
Wow.
So really,
I'm making more problems. Yeah.
and he is a family man, and you can tell that in every which way that he conducts himself in his private life and personally, and that has to be something that any decent human being, any decent leader, and I believe he's a decent man, that must tear him inside. Mm-hmm. That those children, United States citizens, are in foster care, and their parents were not criminals. You know, it was a civil offense. Just. So, but I think it's very fitting, you know, this month is the month of Mary,
Right,
who is the mother of Jesus. And she is in the Roman Catholic tradition called the Queen of Peace. Mm-hmm. And I didn't come to the concept of peace just 7 or 8 years ago. It was an evolution. The war that informed me as a young person was World War II. And I went to a Catholic school in the Irish Catholic tradition in the Bronx in New York, and we prayed every day for peace. And we directed our prayers and the rosaries to Mary, the Queen of Peace. And when I would go to the movies on a Saturday afternoon, and I would see the newsreels as a young person, and I would see all the military places, names like Salerno, the Arno Valley, Dresden in Europe, and then out in the Pacific, Okinawa, the Philippines, all of those areas in the Pacific Theater. I could hear those names, those place names, but what got me were the films of the people, the average person in Europe, where you would see the concentration camps, the prisoners, all of the civilians and everything. And then, of course, as more information came out with the genocide of the gypsies and the people who were at that time labeled homosexual, the Jews, all of that made a terrific impression upon me as a young person about this war that we had to do to help save as many people as we could do. So I wasn't thinking so much of being anti-war at that time, wanting always peace and praying for it.
Yeah.
And but that we have a responsibility as human beings to keep people from being destroyed like that. So that was very, very strong within me, and I was proud of this country for our efforts in those initiatives and in that war. Then Korea came in 1950, not too far after World War II. I was very busy doing a lot of things, didn't think about it. I really came to the concept of questioning war as an answer in a whole different framework than World War II, because I'm still struggling, and I guess we always will, won't we, if we think about things. But it was in Vietnam when I was watching on television as I was feeding one of my small babies, when we had our National Guard in Ohio at Kent State, firing on our own Americans the same age. They were 18, 20 years old, college students protesting against the war, Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And then our National Guard is sent in to restrain that protest. And they actually are shooting at themselves, really, a mirror image.
Unarmed people, yeah.
And I'm saying, oh my God, what is going on here? There's something intrinsically bad here.
Yeah.
And that is when I started really thinking about war not being the answer to a lot of these different things, and then getting involved in peaceful protests and things of that nature. And continually since then, it has strengthened my commitment to the fact that peace is attainable as long as we can get away from, that was almost an accident, oh my goodness. If we get against this knee-jerk reaction of going right to violence and war. It's interesting because 2014 in July will be 100 years since World War I.
Right, yeah.
And I have spent this entire year at a book club, and every month we are dealing with unbelievable literature having to deal with World War I, and actually reading books that I never heard of before this year of men and women who participated in World War I and also learned about before. And it's the same things that we're dealing with today, like why did we have this war? They were questioning that. Why do we have that war? Well, World War I ended up never being finished because it created World War II.
Yes, yeah.
So I have a think, I'm Irish, all right? So I bring everything back to my own roots. And we danced to a song that's saying, the going to a wedding is the making of another. And that's true. People
Yes.
get really romantic and get engaged at a wedding, and then they go on. I have this sense that going to war is the making of another.
Wow. Patricia Bowen.
Got
I
it.
said it right. At the Peace Vigil every Saturday on the corner of Memorial, in front of the War Memorial, on the corner of South and Main Street, 10:30 a.m. till noon. So I hope I hope to see more people coming down, and I hope the word gets out. So,
Okay,
thank you.
great.